to you. It's Roz, the Scully Darling about the books.
And it's Tilly from Leaf Shelf. Hello. And we're here to talk about what we've read for May. It was May, wasn't it, May? Yes. So throughout this year and last year, we've been reading one modern work of fiction every month together as a little buddy read. And for the month of May, we've read Whale Fall by Elizabeth O'Connor. And yes, it's been a delightful adventure into the world of modern fiction. And Roz, I think.
Yes. Or even contemporary fiction, shall we say, because it's all things from the last year or so, couple of years at the most, isn't it?
Post 2020.
Yeah.
Within the last 5 years.
Yeah, so Whalefall was published 2024 in the spring, I think. And it's a debut novel.
Hot off the press.
Yeah, so, well, a year old is not quite hot off the press, but relatively.
Okay, if we're going to nitpick, yes.
Bearing in mind the kinds of things that you
I think we are going to nitpick later on when we're talking about this book, so I'm going to nitpick. So you're
starting as you mean to go on with a nitpicky attitude. Okay, that's good. Well, so yes, debut novel, and it's set. I'll tell you. It's set on a Welsh island, a remote island that's sort of a sort of slightly tricky boat journey off the coast somewhere. Not a real one, an invented one, but there are similar islands around the coast of the UK. And it's only about 3 miles long. So, it's a small place, 12 families living there now. It's one of those, the book is set in 1938, and it's one of those communities that sort of used to be bigger and more thriving and is now sort of gradually depopulating, and the young people all, go away to look for better work elsewhere. And the people that are living there are kind of making do on sort of very basic agriculture and primarily sort of fishing and what's the word for it when you kind of collect stuff on the foreshore? Like foraging.
But yes, yeah, cockles and mussels, alive, all that kind of
seaweed, that sort
of stuff.
Yeah. And although they do have a little school and a little church, and so it's a community, but it's basic. And our heroine Manod is 18 and a kind of very sort of sensitive, thoughtful, someone with ideas, and aspirations, I suppose. Yeah. That's the word. Aspirations is the word. Beyond that very limited life of the island, she lives with her father and her brother and sister, and sister.
Brother?
Yeah.
No. I was like, did I miss her brother? No, just
and and her father's a fisherman. Her mother is gone. We don't get the full story of that till towards the end of the book, so we won't explain because that would take us into spoiler territory. But and then a couple of things happen that kind of shake the island up a bit. Yeah, do you want to say?
So the first thing that happens is a whale washes up on the foreshore. And this is, people don't know how to respond to this. Like, is it an omen? Is it a blessing? Like, what are they supposed to do with this whale? Do they tow it back out to sea? Do they use parts of it? So they don't know how to react to this whale. So that's the first impact. And that whale indirectly then draws the next impact because it's reported on in newspapers that make it to the mainland, newspapers from the mainland, and some people find out about this island and the whale that's on this island, and 2 anthropologists or purported anthropologists turn up on the island wanting to do a study of the people living there, and they kind of discover and then they just turn up.
And they're youngish, and they meet Manod, and because she speaks English as well as Welsh, and because she can potentially translate for them, and she's very literate. She writes well, so they think, oh, we can get her. Basically, they kind of offer her work of a sort as their assistant, come translator, come secretary, which she's, this is like an opportunity for her that she,
yeah, that
so
she can do something different.
Yeah, so she grabs it with both hands and is, feels like she's getting a real chance to change her life, and they kind of almost play along with that in how they talk to her about, oh, you could do anything, you could go to the mainland, you could study, you could do it, and they really sort of speak to her dreams, but they don't. You kind of get that they don't.
It's
really
a very
care.
unequal relationship, obviously, and you can tell that they don't really think of her as an equal. I highlighted a couple of things through it. One of the things I highlighted quite early on is they're talking to her about this island and the island and what's different for them. And one of them says something like, oh, there's this book called Treasure Island. And she's like, I know, I've read it. Like they don't consider that this educated English speaking young woman might know about literature. They just dismiss her ability to be aware of anything that's part of what they see as their world. And the response to that is they just keep talking as if she hasn't said that she's read it, if she doesn't know what Treasure Island is. So they are constantly just slightly undermining her, I suppose. But theme for a lot of it, well-meaning, I suppose. Like, you don't immediately think exactly that they're the bad guys.
No, you just think that they're patronizing and a bit like, oh, you're part of the subject of our study, and we're these kind of like highly educated people
objective, impartial
from Cambridge or whatever it is, and oh, how curious that you wear this, or that you sing these songs, or you have these stories, that. But yes, it's not. You don't think of it as malevolent.
But then, as the story goes on, and without spoiling anything, tips over from being patronizing to being perhaps slightly mean, or slightly more negative. And I highlighted a whole section about this, which I will just bring up. They're reading an article in the newspaper, and it's an advert that one of the boys on the island has sent to the newspaper, advertising that he wants a wife and he wants his wife to come join him on the island. And he's written, I have a bull, 2 heifers and 5 white geese. And they're laughing about this advert and saying, oh, wait for it. I'm an excellent forager of seaweed. And they're laughing at this. And they say, oh, what a Casanova. And Maynard points out, it's because we don't go fishing in the winter. There's no herring or lobster. Like, we need the seaweed to be able to survive the winter. You might have noticed that it's dangerous to go out at the moment. And they say, oh, no, we know. It's just, it's funny. It's just funny. And like, that they've come purportedly to study this culture, but actually they see that culture as definitively lesser than their own, even though what he's talking about is like genuine life skills that they have no idea about.
And how long would they survive if the islanders weren't feeding them? And so it's the classic kind of almost like colonialist attitude, but applied to
very definitely island. A colonialist attitude, I would say.
And so that aspect of the story, you can tell from the way we're talking about it that we both found that quite interesting, intriguing, satisfying, and all the way through the book you get these little excerpts from their notes or their records, so most of it we're seeing it from her perspective, and then we get interspersed with these little bits from them, and that structure, I like that worked for me.
And I liked how you could see in the transcripts that actually they've come trying to observe the island, but in in observing they're changing people's behavior, or like, so when one of them, somebody's telling a story and there's bits in the transcript where Manod's saying, that's not quite right though. Like effectively the villager who's telling this story has decided to kind of create or invent or embellish in order to be able to be in this exciting transcript that the English people are doing.
He's hamming it up,
exactly.
basically.
The story that
and
they get is not, and they don't notice that, or they don't care about that. They'd like it.
Well, but they, so in a sense, we see that they're quite gullible. But it's because they see what they expect to see, and they're sort of imposing their idea of what these primitive people should be like on the islanders. So whereas she's been practicing her English reading Women's Realm magazine, or they're not that cut off.
That actually it's not, it's an isolated community, but they're still going to and from the mainland relatively often. They're selling their fish at fish markets, and they're picking up newspapers and reading about Hitler's rise to power and all of this.
And that's something we haven't talked about, which is that obviously it's 1938, and the coming of the World War II is very much, that hangs over as a shadow. And bearing in mind that a lot of the families in the island have been affected by men being lost in World War One, which wasn't that long ago. So that's one of the
factors in the depopulation of the island, the decline of the island, and we see that it's going to happen again because young men on the island are thinking, well, shall I go and join the army? And it's just like a bit of a cycle that's carry on.
So the theme of the book we found interesting.
I like the symbolism of the whale, and how the whale kind of, as it starts to sort of decay and deteriorate over time, and the way that it then also is exploited by the English couple in different ways. I liked how the whale was a bit of a central thing. Those are things that we liked.
I liked Manod as a character. She was a very convincing character for me. That the being 18, all the things that you think and feel then.
The coming of age type stuff.
Was and she's sort of she is a bit gullible and trusting, but she's also quite smart, and that mix of things that you can be at 18. So that was lots of the strengths of the book, but you had some distinct reservations, I think, about it.
Yes. I don't know, distinct is the right word, because actually I find it quite hard to put my finger on some of it. So when we were talking about this book, I had to say that I like this book, but this book, while I was reading it, was one that made me think, this is why I don't think contemporary fiction is for me. This is why I don't think I enjoy sort of contemporary literary fiction. It's just, I've always thought, not my cup of tea. I'd rather read a classic. And most of the time, reading the books in the last year and a half with you has made me think I'm wrong about that. Actually, I do really enjoy contemporary fiction, and I did enjoy this. But so I read this at the same time as Desperate Remedies by Thomas Hardy. And on the surface, there's a lot of crossover between them. They're talking about isolated communities. They're talking about coming of age. They're talking about relationships, and particularly exploitative relationships. And they're talking about sometimes the conflict between traditional ways of life and modernity. There's themes that overlap, but my goodness, I got so much more fun out of Desperate Remedies. Like Victorians, classics, that kind of, they were all about the sensation novel. They were all about, the melodrama and the emotions and the relationships and the chaos and all of that, and a bit of fate thrown in, and all of these things. It makes a really good read. It's gripping and exciting. Yes, the language is a bit old, but it's compelling. I didn't find Whaleful as compelling because it was trying so hard to be. I think modern fiction has this idea that it needs to be restrained and calm and precise, and it needs to be show don't tell, and the emotions are there, but you have to read for them and you have to interpret them, like they're putting that pressure on the reader to have to think a bit about it. And sometimes it's not that I don't want to think a bit about it, but sometimes that's just a little bit less engrossing, and sometimes I do just want that more Victorian approach. And you can have symbolism at the same time as having sensation. You don't, it's not an either or.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, and I felt, it was a lot of I think some of the praise for this novel is that it's very precisely written, and it is very precise. Some of the things that she was writing very precisely about, I then had the mental process of, actually, I'm not really sure that's, no, I don't think that's how that animal behaves, or I don't think that's how that would interact with that, or I don't, that like, yes, it's very precise, but it's not necessarily accurate. So that kind of threw me out of the story a little bit at times.
Mm-hmm.
Particularly one thing that I flagged up a few times in my head. We're talking about a very, very small island, a community of about 12 families. But
Mm-hmm.
sometimes the way that she talks about Manod's perspective, talking about the other islanders, is as if they were a crowd of people that she didn't necessarily know individually. If there's 12 people living on an island, she would know all of them very well. She's lived with them for 18 years. So
Yes.
it wouldn't just
12,
be
12 families, not 12 people, but yes,
oh yeah, sorry, 12 families. Even 12 families,
you would know all of them by sight at a distance. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
When you're saying, oh, a group of women gathered on the beach, and yes, that's an easy way of writing it, but it wouldn't be a group of women to Manor. It would be Mary's mum, Lucy's auntie, old Anne. Like it would be all people that she knew well, and none of these people are strangers to her. And I think sometimes it felt that wasn't fully conveyed. Just the claustrophobia, perhaps, of just always being with this same group of people. And I think if she'd leaned into that a little bit more, it would have added to the feeling that Manod has of wanting to get off the island. So I think there was maybe an opportunity there that was a little bit missed.
I think it sounds like she needed you as her editor to give her a few.
I'm maybe not an editor, maybe like a beta reader or something.
I don't know. But I mean, I suppose I really like that kind of a bit understated, a bit, slightly, yes, suppressed is a strange word, isn't it? But yes, that style of writing, I think I probably enjoy more than you do. So, for me, it was a good example. Sorry?
It's almost a bit clinical. Like trying to write without, because of the whole show don't tell and not focusing too much on describing emotions and avoiding drama and stuff. Like the emotions are there. I'm not saying that the emotions aren't there. But
I found it quite heartrending in places.
Oh no, absolutely. No.
And I hate it when I'm told what to feel. So
yeah, but I'm saying that the writer is almost holding it at arm's length.
Yeah.
And they are able to convey those emotions, but they're doing it at a distance almost.
Yeah.
Like there's a scene quite early on where Manod's with a boy on the island that's about her age, and they're talking about whether or not to live together and things. And she's focusing on looking at stuff in the cabinet, and he's asking her serious questions, and she's asking him about the colours of the cups in the cabinet. And that's such a modern fiction way of handling that conversation. Like you can see the emotions there, and like she's avoiding the discussion because she doesn't know what to think and feel about it. She's not committed to this relationship. She doesn't know. There's so many 18-year-old feelings going on in here, and the way that the writer chooses to show us that she's dealing with all these 18-year-old feelings is by she's talking about some teacups.
but that seemed very real to me, very real. I found that a really convincing scene.
I'm not saying that it isn't convincing. I'm just saying that it's something that you find in,
Yes. Yeah.
yeah, that I suppose that somebody who was writing in 1938 wouldn't have handled that scene in the same way.
Perhaps not. Perhaps not. I
Anyway,
yes, we
it's been
probably
very entertaining to talk about it.
we may have to agree to differ. Agree to differ
Yeah,
on that. I mean, you know, it is.
and
It
this
is.
is why we read things
Yeah, it's
to
true.
challenge ourselves. You know,
It is. It is. And you know, I would say this is a do read it um book from my point of view.
yeah,
It's not
I wouldn't say don't read it.
just read, you know, if you want to read a debut novel, Matilda would say read Thomas Hardy's debut novel, and yes, saying read Elizabeth O'Connor's. Now, I'd also read. I love Desperate Remedies.
Yes, but that's not what we're. Yes,
I love
I
me
could
a bit
talk
of
for a long time about Desperate Remedies as I did on the chat, but
yes, a bit of Victorian sensation and melodrama. I'm all for it, but you know that it's not mutually exclusive, isn't it? We can read both and
and
enjoy
enjoy
both.
the contrast between them.
And I did. So probably we've been talking about this long enough, and we should probably wrap up.
Yeah.
Um, our next book is
Under the Eye of the Big Bird.
yeah, and oh,
Have you got an
and
author name for that? Because I can't remember it.
it's Kawakami is one half of her name, and I've forgotten the other half, which is awful.
Hang on, I've got it here.
You got it?
How Hiromi Kawakami.
Yeah,
Hiromi Kawakami.
Hiromi, and yes, which I should have stuck in my head because she's also the author of the Reading the Globe fiction contemporary fiction novel choice for this for June, which was The Third Love. So I've read that, and now I'm reading Under the Eye of the Big Bird, which is it's really enjoyable reading. So two very different books by the same author in the same month. So I'm looking forward to our conversation about that one as well.
Translated by Asa Yoneda. And I think this is one of the first translated books that we read in terms of contemporary reading.
Yeah. Although there will be more because
yeah.
So thank you for reading this contemporary novel that didn't quite hit the spot for you, but
I absolutely did enjoy it. I found it. Yeah, it just wasn't a gripping read for me, but not every book has to be gripping.
No.
Yeah, it conjured the atmosphere of the island and the image of the island very well. See, I'm doing the sandwich model. I said good things about it at the start, and I'm saying good things about it at the end.
Yeah, and yes, I absolutely, I could picture the island throughout. I have to say so. And I found the ending of the story a really satisfying ending. As I say, spoiler free, but in terms of sort of making your whole story arc work, yes, she got a thumbs up from me for that as well. Yeah.
Anyway, take care.
Farewell, and
thank you all for watching.
Yes, and tell us what you think about Whalefall, because I think quite a few people have read it. It's been doing the rounds a bit, so always interested in other opinions.
Bye.
Bye.